Say something.
There you go.
Yeah,
You
no,
hear
I
me?
needed you to say something.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, your
Testing,
your levels are a little low.
testing, sound, sound. Hello,
Okay, that's better.
hello.
Any chance you got a light in front of you can turn on? You're kind of being lost in the fireplace.
Uh,
Okay, we're live on YouTube, by the way.
hello, YouTube. Um, I have lights on all around me. What do you need?
We need one in the front for your face.
Okay.
If you
See,
can't do it now, we'll do it another time. But I just figured it was worth asking.
is the fireplace? Because I'm always in front of the same fireplace. What's up?
Yeah, but usually you have more light coming from the front. You
Yeah,
have
I
a
don't
bulb
know.
out or something?
No. Let's see. Hold, please.
All right, YouTube. Sorry for being so boring here. So tonight, we are the BA Zone, and we're kind of new here on YouTube. So that's why I think I either start you guys early or late. I will get the timing down. So we're going to talk tonight about reverse engineering and how that can be useful to BAs, to business analysts. Um, and I just need another minute or two to get things rolling here. Since Mary is here, let me see if I can bring up the timer. Should we
Is
really
that
push
better?
our luck? Actually, I should let everybody see you. Let me go back to here. There we go. There we go. See, I really wasn't talking to myself. There really is a person there.
Am I better lighting now, Kath?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. You actually have a
Yeah.
face now.
Well, I turned off the Christmas tree lights behind me.
Oh, that's weird. I wonder why
Yeah.
that was enough to do it. Oh, it's all fun. All these little details. Okay, so if we do this, but then I have to get it started.
How's everybody
Uh,
doing here
let's see.
today?
Oh, it's a quarter to, so we got some time. Good.
Good.
We'll make it 15.
Are you up on Facebook?
Not on Facebook. Should start itself in theory.
In theory,
So we're it looks like we're live on YouTube, and I'm gonna try to start Periscope. I have to get the title for that one. YouTube. So how was your day?
oh, it was special. I
Oh,
finally, I finally have heat in the house, and then lost it for a few minutes, and got it back again. But we had for those of you who have been following the saga of the boiler, I've been in the
Mayor's Heating,
basement.
a saga.
Oh my gosh, steam heat. We got steam. It's like holy moly, banging and a clanging, and we've been having a lot of fun with that. I've been playing plumber's assistant all week. And let me tell you, plumbers, they are worth everything that they get paid because what
Oh
they
yes.
touch, what they do, oh yeah. Oh
I have
yeah.
never begrudged one a dime.
Absolutely not. Of course, little Tinker, my little Yorkie, is in like a coma because the clanging and the banging just terrified the poor little thing. So he's done for the day. But if you're just joining us, we're just getting set up for today's live show where we'll be discussing the not so dark art of reverse engineering from the business analyst perspective, of course. And our show will begin in, 14 minutes and 34. How was your Thanksgiving, Kathleen?
Oh, it was fine. We always get a big kick out of the fact that the wild turkeys hide starting about 10 days before Thanksgiving, and then the next day they show up again. And I mean, we saw them like in herds the day after Thanksgiving.
They were
We're
hiding.
now live on Periscope. Hi, Periscope.
Hey, welcome, welcome.
How about you guys?
Oh, we had a great time. I did not cook, so that's always a good thing. I just got to eat, which was fabulous. So we had a great time. Good
We
weather,
do
and
reservations.
that's right. That's right. Well, it's better than I used to do the Thanksgiving and the Christmas for about 35 people, and now I just do the holidays, the Christmas holiday.
That's more
I
than
have to,
enough.
I have to take a break somewhere. Um, our live show will begin in 13 minutes, and If anyone caught our show last week, send us a comment, let us know. That was on the mystery of interface analysis. You notice we got a theme going here, the mystery and the not so dark art. And,
it has nothing to do with the fact that I was putting this together around Halloween. Not at all.
Not at all. Not a thing. But if you didn't catch that, the mystery of interface analysis, if you didn't catch last week's show, or you'd like to watch it again, you can check it out on periscope.tv, the BA Zone, or on facebook.com, the BA Zone, or on YouTube. Yay! Just search for the BA Zone. And, when you do that, just remember to follow or like us, send us some love, and you can sign up to get notified when we go live. You can just enter BAZ into chat and sign up for our mailing list as well. And let us know where you're from, and we'd love to hear from you. Any football fans out there? Did we watch any football? I didn't get to see much of it.
There's no local teams that are really doing good. They started out okay. Well, one of them did, but been downhill since then.
Kinda. Yeah, years ago, I used to just vote for who had the nicest outfits. I didn't watch football.
That isn't what you were going to say.
Well, yeah.
All right, we are making some progress here.
Great. Oh, what else is new? What's going on out in the world? We have.
Okay, and I just need to get the little Periscope comments thing working. Come on, plug in. You can do it. I'm a little off-center today, aren't I? Sorry, folks.
Well.
Yeah, go ahead, say it.
Yeah.
You won't be the only one today.
That's right. Who wants to be on center anyway?
Yeah,
the fun is always
boring if you're that balanced, right?
Right, absolutely.
All right, well, see, this is why I usually bring in the other monitor, but... Ooh, sorry, that's really loud. I'm trying to get the comments up on Periscope, and of course it's being whiny. In the meantime, let's do this. And I have to remember where the magic piece of it is. Ah, that's right. Okay.
The magic piece. That's a technical term, the magic piece.
Yes, exactly.
Ah, the magic piece in the Game of Thrones saga, business analysis.
Okay, why am I not getting... Where's the little magic thing that... There we go. Evidently, I just had to click it a few thousand times.
There you go.
Okay, that's good. Oh.
If you're just joining us, Kathleen is fiddling with all of her technical stuff. And tonight's show will be on reverse engineering, the not so dark art of reverse engineering.
And it looks like we are also live on Facebook.
Hello, Facebook. How you doing? How is everybody today? Welcome to the BA Zone's live pre-show. We'll be getting going in about 9 minutes, 44 seconds. And we'll be
But who's counting?
Who's counting? I'm counting because there's a counter in front of me now that I can actually see.
Well, that's good.
It used to be...
And the Periscope thingy worked. Woohoo!
Yay!
Right. And we've got that one.
Up Periscope.
I think that every time. I'm so glad I'm not the only one.
The naval term, up Periscope. By the way, did they ever find that submarine?
No, they stopped looking.
Oh, that's not good.
It's a weird story.
All
right. So good.
Hopefully they were just up into another dimension.
Let me see if I can see chats. Turn all these. Okay. So we have, if the tech gods stay with us, YouTube up with chat. We have Periscope up with chat, and we have Facebook up with comments because they have to call it something different.
YPF, the YPF dance. Everybody's up. Everybody's up.
We will take the wins where we get them, especially after the way my day went. Okay, so there's one little glitch, but I think we can work around that one. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to do a quick screen check. That's me. Okay. That's the desktop. That's the picture-in-picture. That's you with the presentation. And that's us side by side. Woohoo! Okay.
Check. It's like a co-pilot. Pilot doing the co-pilot thing. So
yeah, I do wish I could push some of this off, but it's not happening. So,
is it that time of the show where we do the pre-trivia?
Oh yeah, let's do the trivia. Let me bring up the puppies.
Oh, and there they are. There's Murphy in black, wearing black tonight, and Tinker wearing a sort of off beige. And it is time for this week's pre-show trivia question brought to you by Murphy and Tinker. And this week's question is, in the Harry Potter series, Professor Severus Snape was potions master at Hogwarts, but what position did he really want? And ponder that, and we'll get back to you and give you an answer just before we start the live show. But aren't the puppies cute? You got to comment on the puppies. They're just freaking adorable. You know.
They are, and I'm not the least bit biased.
Not at all. And I don't even mind that they poop on the carpet. You know, it happens.
Okay, so as you're moving, your microphone is dropping. So I don't know if you need to get closer to it or not move as much or what, but well,
I get it.
Yes, give us that nice up the nose view.
Yes.
I don't know if they want to know us that well, but maybe they do. You never know.
You never know.
My spacing is all off on mine.
We might have some ENT guys that are girls that want to move over to business analysis, and looking up my nose might do that for them.
It is certainly possible.
Okay.
Let's see here.
If you're just joining us, we're going to be starting our live show on reverse engineering tonight in about 6 minutes. So stay tuned, whether you're a business analyst, want to be one, or just play one on TV. Or if you want to, let that guy who's sleeping on your couch, who's still trying to find himself, get him a job. Stay tuned with us, and be sure to tag your coworkers, friends, or everyone you know who might be interested in this information. And we've got about 5 minutes to go.
Business analyst for fun and profit.
Yes. And hopefully not Pepsid and anything else that you might need. Antacid. None of that. Everybody do a relaxing. Breathe in and out 3 times. Relax the shoulders from the busy day. Get into the mind groove of, opening up your mind and getting ready for this information. We try to make it entertaining anyway, as dry as it may be. Some people really don't find it that dry. We try to be humorous. The Harry Potter series. The trivia question today, by the way, is in the Harry Potter series, Professor Severus Snape was potions master at Hogwarts, but what position did he really want? That Harry Potter series, I didn't start reading that until about, the 4th book out, because I thought it was a kid's book, a children's book. And that is one of the best stories I think I've ever read. I just started reading it, and it's really well written. So
it is. Well, I got into it because I liked to read whatever the kids were reading, so that I was always the cool aunt. I knew what they were talking about. But I loved the series. I loved reading every bit.
Oh, I know. It was fantastic. And they did a really good job on the movies, too, which is unusual. Yeah. They never, usually one is better than the other, but they really did a great job. So, if you haven't read those books, go out and read them. No matter what age, they're great books. So, 4 minutes left. Anything new in the technical world, Kathleen?
Oh, lots and lots of stuff. Did everybody get all of their big Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Black November gifts? There are some really good deals out there. But I can't reveal any of them because somebody might be watching that I'm giving them to.
Oh, I was going to say, but did you get what you wanted? Because I know you like to kind of gift yourself.
Yeah, there was a couple of one for them, one for me moments, but not too many. I've spent a lot this year on all this technology, so there really
Yeah,
wasn't a lot in the me pile.
yeah, I hear you. I
How
hear
about
you
you?
there. No, I didn't do any shopping because there's really less because Mama needed a new roof here and a new boiler and a new hot water tank. Oh, and a dishwasher part. And yeah, so it was like the perfect storm here. My electronics and hardware all went, everything went. So there's no there's no free money here for the Black Friday.
Everything's fighting
Unfortunately.
back.
That's right. That's right. Not been good. We've got about 2 minutes, 30 seconds to go. So why don't we give you that answer to that trivia question brought to you by Tinker and Murphy? And again, in the Harry Potter series, Professor Severus Snape was potions master at Hogwarts. But what position did he really want, secretly covet? And that would be Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor. And again, the dark arts.
Not that there's any kind of trend. All right, so I'm going to bring
Not
the
that,
title up because I'm kind of hoping that that will become an option for when we set up the post on Facebook and those things. I'm just going to leave it there for a
okay.
sec.
And while some people think that reverse engineering is a dark art, in most cases, that's just not true. And in a few minutes, we're going to dive in and find out just why.
Okay, hopefully that will be enough. The tools automatically grab a screen to suggest as your default screen for the video before people click on play. I try to game that system a little bit.
There you go. And that's some behind the scenes look at how you guys do this as well. That's just a little freebie we throw in. And about a minute to go.
Yeah, so while you're getting ready to enjoy our show, just want to remind you that we're available in all the usual places. So you can find us on Twitter, on Periscope, on Facebook, YouTube, and of course we have our own site. So whatever your preference is, wherever you like to hang out, we're hanging out too.
We're everywhere.
You turn
We hope
around, there we are.
we are. Slowly I turn.
Exactly.
Step by step. Okay. 42 seconds, 40. We're getting close. Has everybody got their tea, their glass of water? Got your favorite comfy slippers on? We'll be getting going here in just a few seconds. So Kathleen, do you really have your pajamas on below that desk? Come on, tell me the truth.
Oh, I wish that would be a lovely thing, but I'm lucky I have enough time to come in, let the dog out, feed him, and get in here.
Oh, that's it. I don't have mine on either yet because I have to take the dog out after, and the neighbors frown on that sort of thing a little bit, you know. It's also a little drafty.
This is true.
Okay, we're ready to go. It
Yes,
is
we are.
that time. Hello, and welcome to the BA Zone Live. Tonight, we're going to talk about the not so dark art of reverse engineering. Have you done any reverse engineering? If so, let us know. Just enter a Y or a yes in the comments, and if not, enter a no or an N. And this session on reverse engineering is a continuation of our deeper dives into our series titled The 10 Techniques for Better Requirement and Elicitation, Gathering and Elicitation. And you can catch that one and all of them in the series on the usual places that Kathleen just mentioned, Periscope and Facebook and the BA Zone and YouTube as well. Are they all on YouTube as well, Kathleen, or just maybe a few of them on YouTube?
Not yet. I just started porting over some of them. I don't know that we're going to be able to get all of them over from the previous, but as many as we can.
Okay. And don't forget to share this session or invite anyone you think would find this information interesting. And as usual, before we kick things off, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Mary Ann Morrison.
And I am Kathleen Sinnott. And together, we are the founders of the BA Zone. We created the BA Zone to help everyone who creates and maintains business and technical requirements. So whatever your business analyst questions or requirements questions are, we are here to help you get to where you need to be.
So tonight's subject, reverse engineering. I mean, that gets some bad press, mainly due to some nefarious individuals, out there. But used correctly, it can be a powerful tool. So join us and learn more about this very special BA superpower of reverse engineering. So, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Kathleen and the presentation. So let's start off by just giving you a little brief definition of reverse engineering. Reverse engineering, or as it's called, back engineering, is the processes of extracting and documenting knowledge or design information from a product. And that's just a high level information. And to give you a little more background on that, I mean, whether you're rebuilding a car engine or diagramming a sentence or perhaps creating a recipe, people can learn about many things simply by taking them apart and putting them back together again. So that, in a nutshell, is the concept behind reverse engineering, breaking something down in order to understand it, to build a copy or improve it. And my nephew was notorious for doing this when he was younger. And today he does sort of the same type of thing. He would take anything apart and put it back together. And most of the time it would work, even though some of those pieces were left on the carpet after he was done. We really have no idea how that happened. As far as a business analyst is concerned, from their perspective, reverse engineering means looking at the current solution or product or suite of products to figure out how it works. So, what are the processes? What are the business rules, the formulas, the calculations? How is the data grouped and used? And what is the interface connectivity? And then taking all that information, documenting it, and analyzing it for whatever purpose you were looking at that data for in the first place, doing the reverse engineering.
Okay, hang on. I'm having a problem with the presentation. I may have to restart it.
Well, let's just, while you're doing it.
Well, I think I got it. Why is it not? Let me change the screen for a second. Let's see if that helps us.
There you go. One more, and you're good to
Well,
go.
no, that's the problem. I'm looking at the one we should be. This is funny. This happened last time. It's skipping one.
You're looking for lies and innuendos about reverse engineering.
All right, well, that's okay. I'll just do the lies without the screen.
I'll give you the bullets. I'll give you the bullets.
Okay, so the screen that for some reason Google doesn't want to show you is all about the lies that you're going to hear about reverse engineering. The first one that people like to throw around is that it's not legal. Okay, that's just flat out a lie. What that comes from is there's some competitive, but some people put it under the umbrella of competitive analysis, which in and of itself is not illegal, obviously. What is illegal is if you go out, reverse engineer something to go out and create an exact duplicate of it. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about generally is you having to go in and reverse engineer a tool that your company has been using for a while. They may or may not have actually bought it from somebody. Or it could be that they built it in-house, but it was so long ago, nobody remembers how it was built, who built it, none of that stuff. So the purpose of you going through this process is to go and understand on the deepest possible level what it is that this tool does, how it's built, what it branches off into, all that kind of stuff. But even in the situations like where it's a third party, if it's a third party that doesn't exist anymore or isn't supporting you anymore, it's okay to do reverse engineering on that because, again, you're not looking to rebuild their tool to turn around and sell an exact duplicate. You're looking at it from the standpoint of how is it interacting with the project that you're going to be working on? And is it still viable? Is it still got parts that you can use? Or are you using such a small part of it that maybe it's worth just rebuilding your own version of it inside your own project? The next one is that only developers can do it. Yeah, right. That's not true. Now, sure, there's a level that only developers can do it on, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do without having to bother them. And as a bonus, it doesn't really require any special tools. And I'll show you just a couple quick examples of that later on. But it is certainly not something that only developers can do. And you don't even have to be super technical to be able to do it. Of course, the more you understand the technical, just as a general rule in our job, the better off you're going to be anyway. The other lie that you're going to hear is that it's easy. Okay, it's not. It is time intensive. You have to be very detail oriented, but it is absolutely worth all that effort. So let's see if I can get to the next screen now. Let's see. We'll do this. And let's, oh, see, now it comes up. See, doesn't it figure? That's so weird.
It's a little slow. It's a little slow. It's a little tired.
Okay, so really? So now you're not going to show the one that you've been showing. Hang on. If it's changing the screen that's required, I can change the screen from here to eternity.
While you're doing that, I'll just start off. We're just going to go over when to use reverse engineering, the different scenarios that you would use it for. So reverse engineering can be used when you want to document interoperability or identification and tracking. So when a system is required to interface to another system and to establish how both systems would negotiate with one another, you would use it then. And this could be used when you're adding new hardware or software applications, for the purpose of adding new features, or in the case of mergers or acquisitions, when businesses buy other businesses and they need to just connect or communicate with those existing products or entities. Or it could be used as a precursor to redesign the software system when you're doing those, mergers or acquisitions to create, a new product or a best in breed product. You've heard me say that before with the newly merged company. Another purpose would be for academic learning, by understanding how something works, you can define the key issues of an unsuccessful design to an existing solution or product. And subsequently, in the new version or even in the existing one, improve that design. And, understanding where some of that unsuccessful design may come from, often begins with the user customer feedback that you would pick up, in a user survey or other techniques like shadowing or interviewing. And if you need information on those techniques, obviously you can go to the bazone.com, and that's part of this 10-part series. But you might also get that information from user-reported bug lists or enhancement lists or post-mortem reviews that may have happened after software releases. A lot of times folks will get in a meeting after a release to say what went wrong or what is going not so well with what they've implemented, and you can get some from that too. But that would lead you to do some reverse engineering for those learning purposes, those academic learning purposes. Is the next one coming up, Kathleen?
Yeah, no, these are just going to be slow.
Okay. Do you want me to
okay.
take it? Or
I'll just keep going. It looks like it's catching up on its own. Are you hearing weird sound?
I am not.
Okay, so then it's just my lovely headset. Okay, so we'll keep going, and hopefully this will catch up. So we're going to continue down the path of when to use reverse engineering, and I guess there's no point in looking at that, so we might as well come here. So another one is to do competitive technical intelligence. So basically like a competitive analysis. So there are times when you're going to need to understand what a competitor is doing versus what they say they're doing maybe, or just to see how you can maybe reposition yourself in the market. And so you may need to do a certain level of reverse engineering for that type of a situation. Now, like I said, this is not a time to go and recreate everything that they do exactly to sell it. But what you want to do is just get a feel for what it is that they're doing, compare it to their marketing to see if maybe there's a gap there that maybe you can fill, that type of thing. But it's certainly it's a hand way to collect some more information. Repurposing. So sometimes there are tools that are being used either for your project or for something else, or maybe they're being used standalone, But as you're going through your process for your project, you start to see some potential overlap or maybe some benefit that you could get by reusing all or part of an existing tool as part of your project. But in order to be very sure about that, again, you can't just go by the marketing of that product or what you are hearing about what people are doing with it. You're going to want to get your hands on it and actually dig in and work your way through to see if it's really going to be useful for you. The next
And
one would
Kat,
be, yep, go ahead.
you and I, we've done a lot of this in the past. This repurposing of different tools when we've done analysis on them. And I
Yeah.
can think of one that is a good analysis in the healthcare, which we're very versed in the healthcare area. We used to there was a logic program. There's a lot of logic programs that will identify patients for disease management types of content to be delivered to them. And it was sort of claims data that was mined. All this claims data was mined for particular diagnosis and conditions and different procedures. And that identification process was then repurposed to pre-populate healthcare records and provide information. So not only did it identify it, but then we decided to actually display that in healthcare records before everybody was doing this. This was quite a long time ago. And or we would pre-fill part of an initial assessment form for a nurse, so she would only have to verify that information and not type it all in. Or the same claims information pre-populated on a patient's record for the patient to go into a site and confirm that they were using those medications. So it's from that one little identification piece of logic, we created multiple different uses for that information and pre-populating. And, based on HIPAA rules, who could see whatever, you got to be always careful with HIPAA.
Always have to follow HIPAA.
Follow HIPAA, but that's a good example of repurposing, I think.
Yeah, that's a great example. So the other thing for this is also it's a way to look at the security and privacy of a particular application. Now, sometimes I've even done this on the project that we're looking to enhance, and sometimes I've done it for the other pieces that we're plugging in. But by going through and reverse engineering it, you sometimes bubble up security flaws, questionable privacy practices, possibly gaps that might affect things like HIPAA, or like I've worked in a lot of financial projects too. There's all kinds of special regulations around that. And, sometimes things just creep in. It's not anything malicious. It's just, evolution of an application over time, evolution of the code. And sometimes somebody leaves something in there that was only supposed to be in for testing and then pulled out, but they forgot. And so going through this process of reverse engineering is always a good thing to do, just to catch those kinds of things. And it's the kind of thing that won't really be caught any other way, because it's not a bug, it's not an error, it's not going to pop up in any log or anything. You're only going to find it by methodically going through and seeing, okay, well, I did these things and I got this data, which in this user role, I'm not supposed to get. Or I got, some that I was supposed to, but then some that I wasn't. So it wasn't filtering out what it was supposed to. So it's that type of thing where, again, whether it's your own tool or it's a third-party tool, you can't be too careful with security and privacy. We're looking at you, Experian. And the more time and the more eyeballs on it, the better it is for everybody. Trust us on that one.
And you can't even really depend on test cases, because over time, they can get muddied as well, especially when you're talking about migrations from different companies. Not everybody's testing might be as good as yours. So, okay, another when to use would be to improve documentation or documentation shortcomings. So that can be done when the documentation for a system, the production, operation, or maintenance process have shortcomings, and the original designers are not available to improve it. Maybe they left or were laid off, or this is just an overtime type of thing that can happen. And it also helps to validate any information that's been provided. So from a BA perspective, one of the first things I do, or I direct BAs to do when we start with a new company, or if we're acquiring a company, is to first do the documentation analysis, which we've talked about in previous shows, if it exists, followed by the reverse engineering. If you can get somebody to do it for you, like a Kathleen, that's great. Otherwise, as the PA, you can certainly do it. It's time consuming, but it's not that difficult. So you want to do that to create or validate things like the data dictionary, the functionality by role, the ease of use or design issues, processes or process handoffs, error handling, etc. All of that information you can get and validate to improve that documentation. And then eventually to redesign the documentation itself so that you can easily maintain and update that information moving forward, so you don't get behind and the next person that does pick it up, it's up to spec and up to snuff. You can also use reverse engineering for bug tracking or fixing, to fix or sometimes to enhance legacy software, which is no longer supported by its creators, such as abandonware. When you're talking about bug tracking or fixing and reverse engineering, there is a tremendous amount of information in the back end, in the front end. So for bug tracking, you really want to be very specific about what you're looking for, so you don't get totally lost in the weeds, because it's easy to go off and say, ooh, let me look over here, especially if you're inquisitive. So for that piece, you really want to be direct, as opposed to looking at the entire system to look for shortcomings. But that's something definitely you can be used for, you can use a reverse engineering for.
Definitely. And she's not talking about me, about going off into other areas.
No, not at all. None whatsoever. Stay focused.
Not today.
Hey, it's helpful to go off track sometimes. You find stuff you wouldn't expect, but
well, exactly.
You do.
I mean, how many times did I go off on a tangent and find something useful?
Absolutely.
Gotta look under all the rocks.
So I let her leak out just a little bit and then pull her back.
Exactly. She keeps you from going off the cliff.
That's right.
Okay, so another place that you can use reverse engineering is when you're looking to modernize your software. So it could be that, you've got a tool, it's been working great, everybody's happy with it, but it's not, it was built maybe in the 80s or, heaven forbid, COBOL on a green screen, and you need to bring it into this century. Well, this is a good time to go through, do your reverse engineering process, looking for areas where you can modernize things. So you want to get an idea, first of all, about the state of the existing legacy system so that you can then start to map where you want to go and get it ready for the to-be state, so the result of your project.
Right. Okay. And so that is basically what she's talking about, is sort of around the obsolescence of a system. And you can use the reverse engineering, when they were often designed on proprietary systems, as Kathleen was talking about, or code that's old. And when the decision's made to stop updating those older systems, the only way to incorporate that functionality is to do that reverse engineering, as well as you may be stuck with that that obsolescent problem for a while, and you'll need to support that system. So you may have to reverse engineer in order to do that. And, we've had plenty of legacy systems that hang around for quite a while because maybe they're being licensed by clients or customers. And even though we're no longer, enhancing them per se, we do have to continue to support them. And, that information may not be there. A lot of times developers were making things very quickly without documentation. So reverse engineering is a good way to get all that information down, when it's no longer being supported either by the in-house staff or, a manufacturer of some type. Okay. Onward. How do we do
Onward
this?
And upward. I'm going to have to, I think, create a bug report because I think it's not Google. I think it's our software. But that's okay. We can keep going. We got it to go. I just start changing it now a little early. All right. So everything we've talked about so far is the hows and maybe the whys you would want to do it and where it's useful. So let's talk a little bit about how you actually do it. So the basic starting point for it is to sit yourself down in front of the application, get the various IDs and passwords you need to work at the different user levels and start going through it. And as you go through, and this is going to sound familiar because these are repeating patterns here, and this is the kind of thing you can start to layer on. But you're going to want to go through, you're going to want to step through all the different processes the way that you've been told that they're supposed to work. You're going to want to document them in workflows. You're going to want to take your screen caps so that you can map it back. Then you're going to want to do what I think is the fun stuff. Start doing things wrong. Start pounding on the keyboard. Start clicking on things you're not supposed to click on. Try doing it on a device they say it won't work on. Try being logged in 2 different tabs as 2 different user levels. See what happens, for a web app. And again, you want to do all these things and keep documenting every step you did, what the result was, so that later on you can go back and find out, was it the expected result? Is that an acceptable result? All those kinds of things. You're also going to want to try to bring up as many error messages as you can. Like I said, pound on it, do things wrong. One of my superpowers is breaking software. I can't really tell you how I do it. I think it's just over a lifetime of watching real users. I think that's got a lot to do with it. Because no matter how clear and structured your software is, how many training courses and manuals you give them, humans are humans, and they're going to try to turn any tool into something to resolve their issues, or they're going to find workarounds around things that they don't like. So you need to try to find as many of these things as you can. Now, you're not going to find everything, but the more you try, the more you'll get, which is more information that you can use for your project. Like I said, take lots of screen captures. Also take screen captures not only of the screens, but also of error messages, warning messages, that type of thing. Try putting numeric values into text fields. Try putting text into numeric fields. See what happens. If you start hearing people screaming in the background, you know that it's hit the database. Make sure, let me just really, really try to only do this on QA systems. You're not always going to be able to do that, but personally, it kind of makes me a little freaked out to have to do this kind of work on a live system because I have brought systems down. So you really want to push, you want to strongly encourage that they give you a safe place with real data to go and do this kind of mucking around.
And if they have
all you can do.
If they have a staging environment, that's even better than QA. A staging environment, it's a copy of production. You can definitely do it in QA. You can definitely do it in development, but you're going to run into the thing that, something's always being pushed to QA or something's always being developed in development. And if all those alternatives don't work out, you can always shadow someone in live production. Not quite the same as hitting all the keys as Kathleen is talking about, not at all. But, that's the best you can do. That's the best you can do. And that's our Kathleen breaking software and hearts everywhere.
It's a superpower. And no, I don't wear a cape. If you've seen The Incredibles, you know what I'm talking about. So not only do you want to do it from the literal front end of how people are working with it, but you're also going to want to get in and read the code. You're going to want to look at the file structure. If you've got access to that, you're going to want to poke around under the covers as much as you can. Now, this is where a lot of my fellow BAs kind of freak out a little bit. You don't have to start off being technical when you do this. And in the beginning, when you look at it, it may feel like gibberish. That's okay. Keep doing it, and you will start to recognize patterns over time. And then you can focus in on those patterns. And the more you do this, the better you get at it, just like anything else. It's a skill. So don't be intimidated. Hi. Okay, so we have a question on Periscope. AccuFloop 4? Yeah, I'm not sure what your question is. If you want to go ahead and type that in there, that would be great, and we'll be happy to answer that. I just see the question marks. I don't see if you actually had a question. I'll just keep rolling while you get a chance to type that in. So go ahead and poke around. Don't be afraid to look under the covers. Look at things that maybe normally you wouldn't look at just to see. And I will show you a couple of ways to do that in a second. And like I said, my all-time favorite, remember to try and bubble up as many errors and warnings as you possibly can. So let me show you a couple of examples. I think that's next, right? Let me see. Yes, okay. So I'm going to bring that down for a second. And we're going to go in here. So
you can always make friends with a DBA or a developer as well, and get some access. I said you can always make friends with a DBA, a database administrator, or a developer, If you wanted to take a look at the back end or have them print you some tables, be friendly, be nice, and you'll get a lot of information back that way.
Oh,
It's
yes.
always interesting to look at the
Making friends in the
database.
coffee room is always handy.
That is very handy. Bring in a cup of coffee and a donut. Feed them.
That's true too. Okay, so just as an example, so this is a piece of software that I have loaded on my desktop, and this is a good way to practice if you don't have time to, if you haven't had access to the opportunity yet to get your hands on your different software tools, if you haven't made enough friends on the development side to get access to the stuff that's more under the covers, you can start by looking around here. So this is just a program, but right away, by looking at the file structure, you can start to see what's in here. And anything that says HTML or text, you can open up and read. Now, usually it's just licensed stuff, but it's always worth looking at. Sometimes there are change logs, sometimes there are some other tips in here, so it's definitely worth looking at. And anything that you look at in something like Notepad or any kind of just a basic text editor, you can feel pretty safe with because it's not going to execute code. So it's just going to let you get a little peek into things without actually have to worry about running anything or triggering anything. The one thing, here, let me bring this up here. Okay, so the one thing as I'm showing you this that I cannot emphasize too much is do not save. So as you're going around, you're poking in things and you're looking at things, just make sure you always close, don't save, because you don't want to inadvertently introduce errors and problems into a system. So it's fine to go in and look at these things and poke around, take a note of, their naming structure. Sometimes you can learn a lot just from the naming structure. And in a second, I'll tell you a story about that. But there's a lot of information that's just available if you just go and you look at that kind of stuff. Let me go back in here. So, normally I would just go and poke around. Now, help is always a good one just to see what's in here. So now you're going to see that these are XSL files. So I'll take you in so you can see what it looks like. Let me make that bigger so you can see it. There you go. So, at first look, you're kind of like, what is this? But if you take the time to kind of read through it, okay, so there's the licensing thing. Okay, that's fine. But then when you come down here, you start to see that, okay, they're using a kind of old W3 validation. Not the end of the world. There's still a lot of people using that. But you can see how it starts to get broken up. So there's Office, there's Style. They have a special section for tables, Draw. So it would imply that this tool does some sort of graphic functionality built into it. Let's see what else we say here. Okay, there's roles. So we know that there's role security on it. Okay, so that's kind of basic stuff, but it's there. Now, I want to bring you in because I want to show you something that will freak you out, just so you know that it's not the end of the world. Let's just try one like this. So we'll open with... I always turn this off. Don't always want to open it in the same thing because it may not work. Okay, so occasionally you're going to see stuff like this. Do not panic. It's not a big deal. This is just compiled code that the editor can't handle. And so there's no information here, but like I said, as long as you're not saving it or trying to do anything with it, it's okay. Root entry, that's always interesting. But yeah, so you're not going to see anything in this because this is compiled. And there are tools that you can buy that if you have, if you're working for a company that's willing to cough up that kind of money, you might be able to get your hands on over time. But, if not, don't sweat it. So here are the databases. Let's see. Config files, if they exist and you can access them, are often very interesting too. Let's see. Open with. No, not always. I don't even know if it's going to work this time. Do this, and you do this. Okay, so this is kind of a mix of some compiled stuff, but there's some words that you can pull out of here. This is mainly, it looks like the font table. And like I said, you'll start to recognize these, or if you've worked, if you've done any desktop publishing, you'll start to recognize, the sans is always an indication that it's a font table. Let's just see if there's anything else interesting here. I should have warned you. I find this very interesting. Let's see. Wow, this is just all fonts.
As Kathleen, as you said, this is something you develop over time. This is not something that as a new BA you'd be bouncing around. I mean, on your own time you could bounce around, but it's not something that you expect a new BA to understand, or this is sort of an acquired bounce around, look around type of thing.
Right. And the whole point of me showing you this, and she's quietly signaling that I should go on to the next one, is just to show you that you can do this right on your desk, right on your computer now, on your desktop now. Open up a program, see what's in the file structure, open a couple of files, see if you can notice any patterns, what you can read, what you can't read. Because this is the kind of thing that the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, and the faster you start to pick up on the patterns. Let me just look real quick, see if there's like one more. Just looking around here. All right, so just for giggles, I'm just going to show you a slightly different one. So this is a different one. So you see it's got different folders here. And, there's a default and there's dictionaries. So that, right away you can start to get a feel for maybe what's in here. This is something else to look at. I want to open with, Notepad. Notepad, Note++, there's a bunch of different ones out there. Oh, bummer. I was hoping to find one let me just try one more that might have a JavaScript file in it. Because those are the other types of things that you're going to want to look for. Let me see, actually, if there's something in my little world here.
Yeah, you'll start to find when you're looking through these type of applications, when you bring them up, you can find label names, field names, in quotes. There's a lot of information, mainly label names, and not that I would ever do that, but developers sometimes will allow you to change just for quick sake, a label
Sure.
name, a content, and you start to understand and see those. You can find them very quickly in code, but again, it's an over time type of skill. And
So this is a really good example of a file that when you're first doing this is going to be overwhelming. But this is a JavaScript file. So after you spend a little time with it, you start to recognize patterns like references to the parent node, removing the child node. You'll also start to recognize certain keywords. And the nice thing about that is when you look at a couple of these, sometimes you can backtrack to figure out if they've been using a particular library. So I won't go too far down the rabbit hole, I promise. But when you're writing code, instead of having to reinvent the wheel every single time, there are these things called libraries out there. And basically, they're just collections of code that you can use. They're available freely or for a reasonable price, usually, that you can just plug in and then build your stuff off of. So, for example, if you're going to do like a little toast message, you don't have to build that from scratch yourself. There's a half a dozen of them out there. You could just pick one and use it and plug in the JavaScript. Or if you're doing, a certain kind of accordion, that's the same kind of thing. The problem is, a lot of times people decide to use a library and then they never update it. And that's a problem because it's code. And so like anything else, there's going to be bugs, there's going to be holes in it. So by looking at this kind of code, looking at the JavaScript kind of files, sometimes you can get in, identify which it is, and then go out and do a Google search or a Bing search, whoever you are. And you can identify what that library is, and then you can check to see what the most current version is, or if it's even still supported. Because if it's not supported anymore, you might want to bring that into your project, your requirements, that we might need to look at something else to replace it. Or at least bubble up the issues around it's not supported, here are the known bugs on it, and that kind of stuff. So at least a discussion could be had, and people are making an informed decision about whether or not they go forward with it. All right, so let me just show you. I'll do one more because we're kind of running late here. But this is another one, and this one in particular is very handy for doing things on the web. You know what? Here, we'll do this. So give me one sec. Okay, so whatever browser you like, whatever your browser of choice is, sometimes you have to go in and poke around a little bit, but you can turn on usually some sort of developer tools. And when you've got them, then you're going to look for this inspect. Now, it's a little different on Firefox. I think they call it something different, but I could do a whole show on this, and maybe I will. If you folks are interested, let me know. I'm more than happy to do a deep dive on these things. But this is in Chrome, so I went in into the settings, and I turned on the developer tools. And that way, when I do a right click, I get this inspect. And when I click on this, it opens up this panel on the side. And what this is doing, it's kind of a mix of view sourced with some really strong tools. And so you see, as I'm moving, it's highlighting different parts of it. So what it's doing, it's showing me what part of this view this code is affecting. And if you come up here, there's this little arrow in a box. If you click on this, you can click on different elements, and you can see on the right side, it's highlighting the code that's associated with that. This is a massively handy way to go in and figure out how things are working, or more importantly, sometimes how things are not working. And you can also, with something like this, let's see if I can find a good one here, like this one. So you can come in here, and even though this is not my site, this is Periscope, I can test putting text into it, and it will show up here. Now, I haven't touched anything on the Periscope side of life. Okay, I'm not hacking, I'm not doing anything nefarious at all here. This is just what's in the browser, and this tool on the right side is letting me adjust things. So like, say for example, I was talking to a developer about maybe changing the words or changing the font size or that type of thing. I can test and maybe prove that it's possible by doing it in here without having any access to the actual code, obviously, because I don't have the Periscope code. So this is showing you this code. There's all these different pieces here. Let me see, I have to move this. This is not my usual desktop, so it's not quite set up the way I normally would have it. So here is where, like, I could, let's see, is this a good one? Let's find something that'll show.
Well, she's
Profile
finding
name.
something.
So here, I could change, so right now it's black, but I could change it to yellow. Now, this is a terrible idea because you can't read it. So this here, this section right here in the middle, these are the styles, and this up here is the actual web code. And as you get into this, like this is where most of us as BAs are going to spend our time. But if you want to know more, you can go into all these other things, and it will show you errors that are happening that maybe nobody has noticed. You can look at the sources that are being loaded. This is going to be a little slow on here. You can see where things are coming from. So again, it's just a really good way to kind of start wrapping your head around how these things are being built, what pieces are being used. And it's really super handy if you're looking to see if maybe there's stuff that's being loaded that's not actually being used anywhere. You can check memory use. I mean, you can get quite deep in here. But again, don't be overwhelmed by this. Start off where it starts you and just working with this code. And then the more you do this, the more curious you get, the more you'll be able to deep dive on it. So that's just a couple of my favorite tools that I find useful on a very regular basis and are great ways for you to just to start understanding how you can reverse engineer pretty much anything you can get your hands on. Okay, I'll stop.
Kathleen, no, I mean, that also looks pretty handy. As business analysts, we also, after we do analysis, we do provide some potential solutions. I know that some people out there will say, well, business analysts don't do that. But, if you're looking to redesign something, I mean, that could be very handy if you're simply saying, do you like this color or do you like this color as potential solutions? Do you like A, B, or C type of thing? You could even use it in that. Not that you would, but I could absolutely see presenting that to one or two people just to get a feel for, how they're, how it might go over with a bigger crowd type of thing. And then, of course, you do it in a much better presentation. You wouldn't go in and use reverse engineering, but, it has the capability to do that as well.
Right, and by going in and using, like, particularly on the web apps, which most things are at this point, or at least parts of them are, you can go in and do that kind of tweaking and take a screen cap if you are trying to communicate an idea and maybe people aren't getting it. And maybe you don't have the time to do, a full comp or prototype, which we'll get into next week. What a nice little segue. But this is another quick way to try things, or just to sanity check it for yourself. Gee, I wonder if this would be better. You can quickly go in, and you saw how easy it was. I highlighted it, I clicked on it, I typed, and it showed up. So it's a quick way to do things. And that's, for me, that's the difference. I mean, there's all kinds of tools and theories and things that you can play with out there. But for most of us, we have deadlines. We've got multiple projects we're juggling, and we need to get to things as quickly as possible. So that's why I like these kinds of things, because it removes a lot of layers between me and the information. Because I can go in and dive in and poke around, and maybe not find all the answers, but even if I find the right questions to ask, that's a huge help. Yes, it's a favorite
Absolutely.
topic. Anything else you want to add, Mayor?
No, you'll just go on and on and on. If I
Yes, I
mention
will.
anything, I know. No, that's great, Kathleen. Thank you so much for that. And I think that about wraps up our show for this evening. You can catch us on all the usual places. Kathleen has it up there. And please remember to tag any of your friends, family, coworkers, strangers on the train, or anyone who finds this content helpful. And as always, we're here to help you own the zone of business analysis. And thanks for coming by. And make sure
Oh,
you stick with us. Oh,
I
you can
forgot to
join.
mention one thing. I'm sorry.
That's all
Um,
right.
so I want to also remind everybody that we are whoops, wrong one. We are building a mailing list so that we can notify you, remind you when we're going to go live. We're working on some ideas for next year that we kind of like to bounce off of some of you, and just to generally keep you up to date. Why isn't the wrong thing coming up? There we go. So if you go to thebazone.com/mailing list, one word, no spaces, you can sign up for the mailing list. We promise that we will not spam you in any way, shape, or form. We don't like it either, and we're not going to sell your name to anybody, so you don't have to worry about that. This is just for us to start to communicate with you in a different way for anything that maybe you wouldn't catch on Facebook or whatever. The problem with Facebook and Twitter is things scroll up, and so maybe you'll miss something. So if you will go and sign up for the mailing list, we'll be sure that you'll get the information that we're trying to provide. And by way of a thank you, we will send you a free copy of our survey guidelines. It's an ebook, just to say thanks for signing up. And of course, you can sign up, and then if you decide that you don't like what we're giving you, you can always unsubscribe. It's easy, there's no cost. But I do think it'll be a great way for us to continue to build this community out. Okay, sorry about that. I have to add that to this slide.
Well, that's okay. And everybody, make sure you pencil us in next week when the topic will be prototyping. And also, don't forget to leave us your questions or feedback in the comments section here on Facebook. Tweet or DM us on Twitter at the BA Zone, or you can go to our website, thebazone.com, and use our comment form. And remember to like us and subscribe in all the usual places that Kathleen brought up. And again, thanks for coming by, and see you next time on the BA Zone Live. Kathleen, take us out.
Bye.
Whoa.
Oops.
Take care.